going on, guys? Today we are back, and today we are jumping right back into the 2UZ swap in my 1989 Toyota pickup. In the last video, we pulled the old supercharged 3.4 out of my truck and picked up the Tundra that's donating its heart to the project. So how about we start out by removing the 2UZ from that Tundra? As I mentioned in the last video, I'm going to take you guys with me through pretty much every single step along the way in the swap, including the wiring. And with the engine removed, that is exactly what I decided to dive into first. So wiring is one of those things that probably scares a lot of people away from doing swaps like this. But if you take your time and really study the diagrams, it's not actually that bad. So these three plugs, you don't need to touch nothing at all. They go directly into the engine harness and nothing needs to be spliced, nothing needs to be altered. It's these last two plugs that connect to the body harness that need to be modified. Moving over to the diagram, you can actually see all of these plugs are labeled A, B, A, and beside the plug label is a little tiny pin number. So, for example, you can see here on B, pin 13, I've identified this as plug B, and as you can see the blue with the black tracer wire, I have labeled as AC for air conditioning, just like this has here. And I know that because I printed off this Toyota acronyms chart. As you can see, ACT, air conditioning, matches up with that one right there. So for these last two plugs that go to the body harness on the Tundra, I've identified every single wire that comes out of them so that I can make a conversion harness so that it's plug and play with my 1989 Toyota pickup's body harness. Check out this massive pile of wiring that's now deleted from the system. Alright, and next up, I'm going to lift the engine back up into the air and disconnect the transmission. Alright, so next up, I removed the exhaust manifolds and I removed the engine mounts. Honestly, I was expecting a ton of broken bolts, but not a single one on either side gave me difficulty whatsoever. They all came off no problem. So now it's time to start on the engine mounts. So this is the factory engine mount that came with the 2UZ. And this is a 1/4-inch piece of steel I have underneath it. I'm going to use it to mark the holes and then cut out a plate around it that would then bolt onto that block. is a leaf spring mount. Well, actually a shackle mount, and this came from Corey's pickup when he did his Chevy 63 kit. I'm going to trim it down and then weld it into place on there. And then from there I can use plate from either side, and then it would drop down onto the 3-liter mounts. It will be offset one side or the other. I'm not sure what way it is yet, but yeah, that's something I'll need to address when it's in the truck. Out of curiosity, I just gotta know what the 4.7 looks like in it. So let's do that. Even though it's not near ready for it, I just want to see how it fits. So first, I am going to take the bell housing off the R150, and then yeah, go from there. Alright, so the 2UZ is sitting in the engine bay, and it fits terribly. Let me show you what I learned. So, it's not really a surprise, and I did expect this, but there's like no room up here at all for a radiator or cooling system, meaning this whole engine and transmission needs to go back. That being said, there is room for it. There's like 5 to 6 inches between the engine and the firewall, so that should be fine. Also, see all this room here? And how there isn't much room here? So the whole engine's gotta move like 2 inches this way, but let me show you the roadblock there. Right behind that orange oil filter, there's an oil cooler. And unfortunately, because of the cooler, it's pushing the filter right into my steering box and frame rail. So the oil cooler has to get deleted so that I can move the engine more towards the driver's side. And down to the last roadblock. So this oil pan here, I think it's like a mid-sump kind of deal, and the oil pan almost clears my steering, but I don't think it'll be an issue once the engine is moved back. That being said, once it's back, I might have another issue of the pan itself hitting the pumpkin. But now that I got a rough idea of how it's gonna fit and what I have to modify, time to take it back out. Now, I'm gonna lift the engine up a little bit, drain all the oil, then remove the oil filter and the oil cooler, and then it's time to put this thing back in and see if there's more room. Okay, so this is what the oil filter flange looks like with the oil cooler removed. As you can see, the coolant line that was into it, I just got a piece of heater hose here and kind of looped it on both sides so that it's a closed circuit. But as you can see, this is pretty much ready for an oil filter to be screwed in. Except not quite. This used to go through the oil cooler and into the neck like this, so that you could screw on the oil filter here. I need to figure out how to get one of these that is a lot stubbier that would now go right into the neck. And that brings us to this little nipple. This came out of a 3.0 block, and check it out. It happens to be the exact same thread. So this is now going to take the place of where this was in the oil filter neck coming from the block. Check it out, the nipple fits perfectly, and we can screw an oil filter right into place. And that is one problem solved. Now for the oil pan. I have on order a factory rear sump from a 1UZ. This will bolt up to the 2UZ block and solve that issue. Next up, I decided to take my grinder and cut off the few remaining IFS brackets from my truck that were hard to get with the motor installed. Because I might as well, and I might just need that extra bit of room for the exhaust. Okay, so now that those few remaining IFS brackets are clear, the tranny is out, and the oil filter and oil cooler are removed, let's see how the 2UZ fits in this engine bay now. safe to say it fits. Anyways, guys, that about wraps up another episode of the 2UZ swap in my 89 Toyota pickup. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give me a thumbs up, and hey, make sure you hit that subscribe button too to follow along with all the 2UZ swap progress. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Let's go. I'ma make a couple stacks, do exactly what I want to. Mix a couple tracks, get a lady that I'm drawn to. Turn up to the max, get me faded till I'm gone, dude. I do what I want, couldn't stop me if you wanted to. I just work hard, yeah, harder than the rest. Some people say I'm lucky, others say I'm